welcome back. Now we'll have a 10-minute sponsor segment by our presenting partner, Syngenta, on the future of agriculture, before our innovation pitches session, where 3 individuals will each present a tech solution to solve the climate crisis.
The world is out of balance. We are out of balance. With climate, with nature, even with ourselves. The global population is growing, while at the same time resources are becoming scarce. In the next few decades, we have to overcome unprecedented challenges. Challenges that differ in shape and impact from one region to another. Challenges too complex to be addressed by a single nation or organization alone. But what if great minds come together, united in a passion for finding the best solutions of our time? A tribe of visionaries, engineers, scientists, developers, and makers from the finest agricultural companies in the world. From startups, NGOs, universities, think tanks, from our partners and customers. Together, we will form an unparalleled agricultural powerhouse of diversity, collaboration, and innovation. With our universal pioneering spirit, we will deliver breakthrough technology in one field to the next and still to another. We will become the world's central hub of agricultural know-how and offer cutting-edge digital tools for high-precision farming. We will boost the world's agricultural output while increasing the quality of food, encouraging biodiversity, and elevating the environmental standards of our industry. Together, we will look for opportunities to innovate in every detail of our business, across borders and beyond. But we will keep coming back to where we have always been, standing side by side with farmers and growers worldwide, hands-on, building the most local and trusted team in agriculture, in our common quest for feeding mankind, creating a greener, healthier, and safer planet. Syngenta Group.
Farmers are facing increasing pressure from climate change, soil erosion, and biodiversity loss, and from consumers' changing tastes in food and concerns about how it's produced. And indeed, the natural world in which farmers work with, for example, plant pests and diseases, continue to pose their own threats and challenges. I'm here with Petra Lox from Syngenta to discuss these challenges and the future for agriculture. Petra, maybe you could just start with describing some of the difficulties that farmers face today.
Thank you, Liam. You're right. The effects of climate change do impact farmers' ability to grow the food we all need. There's increasingly volatile weather, and there are more extreme events like floods and droughts. And these change growing seasons, limit the availability of water, and they allow weeds, pests, and fungi to thrive. And all of this can reduce crop productivity. Then we see soil erosion, which is reducing the amount of land available for agriculture, and declining biodiversity affects the pollination of crops. At the same time, farmers are under pressure, under tremendous pressure, to conserve water and use fewer agricultural inputs. As farmers adapt to these changes, they also need to mitigate the greenhouse gas emissions contributed by agriculture through adopting climate-smart practices. And this is absolutely a new learning journey for many.
Now, all this sounds like a Herculean task. What's being done to support farmers?
Syngenta is very actively supporting the transition towards more sustainable farming systems. We believe technology will play a major role in supporting farmers to become much more sustainable from an environmental and from an economic perspective.
So I've heard at the heart of this transition is something called regenerative agriculture. Can you maybe explain what that actually is?
Regenerative agriculture, which some people also call nature-positive agriculture, is actually an approach to deliver on the right balance between the need to supply sufficient food and to take care of our environment. It's not a specific technology or agricultural system, but it's a number of farming practices that help to achieve the outcomes that we all want. These outcomes include improved land use efficiency to protect non-agricultural land, but also to protect the soils we grow the crops on for future generations. Then capturing carbon in the soil is important, as is improved water holding capacity. And then regenerative agriculture also looks to protect and enhance biodiversity. Another factor, of course, is to ensure that Europe's food supply is of sufficient quantity and quality and can be produced as close to its market as possible.
So can you provide some examples of practices that come under the heading of regenerative agriculture?
Such practices include low or no-till, enabled by modern seeds and modern herbicides. This keeps carbon in the soil, helps the soil to hold water, and enriches it by diversifying its microorganisms. Another is using cover crops between cropping seasons to better protect the soils from erosion during the off-season. And then adopting crop rotations with a variety of crop species will help replenish soils and minimize the buildup of pernicious weeds and pests. We have Syngenta CropWise, which is a great example of an all-in-one digital solution that enables farmers to forecast harvest, to get real-time updates on current field and crop conditions, and to receive immediate notifications if something somewhere is wrong. But we are all on a learning journey, you know. New University of Cambridge research suggests it might be more effective to concentrate high-yield farms within smaller areas, allowing much more land to be rewilded. The researchers found that most species would fare better under a land-sparing approach than if farmers tried to share land with nature.
And are there any specific policies or incentives that can help accelerate the transition to regenerative agriculture?
There are several things that can be done. Let me focus on three. If we want innovation in new biological crop protection, we will require a new tailored regulatory framework for biocontrols. Then the broad use of digital tools is of course dependent on access to the internet in rural areas, and plant breeding will be facilitated through access to modern breeding technology.
So Petra, we can't talk about the transformation of the agricultural sector without talking about the need to protect food supply. What does the future hold for food systems given the effects of climate change?
It's estimated that we will need to grow 70% more food by 2050 to feed the 10 billion people who will then be inhabiting our planet. Unless we can continue making agriculture more productive on the land already under cultivation, farmers around the globe will have little choice but to clear more forests and more natural vegetation to produce the additional food the world will require in the coming years. Hundreds of NGOs have already called for the abolition or drastic curtailment of pesticides, but usually without much advice about how we should replace the crops that would be lost to pests as a result. From an environmental perspective, the hostility to modern pesticide technology makes little sense. Since the 60s, chemical innovation has reduced the amount applied per acre by 60%. A recent study of pesticides used in California found 97% were less toxic than the caffeine in coffee. Without our modern pesticides, yields would be 10 to 40% lower depending on crop. I'm absolutely convinced that only through continued innovation in agriculture, like biological crop protection, digitally precise farming, and improved seeds and fertilizer, can we together meet the extraordinary environmental and food security challenges ahead.
Petra, many thanks indeed for your time and for providing those thought-provoking insights. I don't know about you, but the next time I'll be sitting down to a meal, I'll be a lot more appreciative of the ingredients that are on my plate. So a big, huge thank you to all of the growers and farmers out there who are battling daily to get the food that we need. And thank you for watching.
Hi, welcome back for our innovative pitches session. So 3 individuals will each present a tech solution to solve the climate crisis. Before we start, a few housekeeping rules. Each speaker has 8 minutes to pitch their solution. I still encourage all of you to tweet at #Politico Sustainability Summit. And we have another poll presented by Whirlpool. How can the European Union better support innovative and sustainable breakthrough in the circular economy? A, by enabling and promoting long-term technological solutions driven by policy and regulatory activity, or B, by swiftly enacting immediate actions designed to meet short-term sustainability goals. So our first speaker joins us online, and it's Meri Lundahl, Chief Sustainability Officer at Teraloop Oy.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much. So at Teraloop, we work on the crucial challenge of energy storage. And to introduce that to you, I brought some objects with me here that represent my own personal journey to climate change mitigation. So this camping cooker handle, this electric whipping tool, and this solar-powered battery. And I'll get into what these mean to me. So when I first heard that my ordinary life is causing climate change, I was quite ashamed that I just, all my whole life, just let it happen. But then later on, I learned to appreciate that it also means that I have power to change things. So this camping cooker handle, it now reminds me of the many wonderful times I have spent camping instead of flying abroad for holidays. And this electric whipping tool, it reminds me of the times when I was learning to whip other alternatives to cream from the plant-based options and to eggs, and also to cook other like plant-based options for animal foods. And when I made these shifts to my traveling and eating habits, it brought to my life so much more quality and well-being that I was really puzzled of why isn't everyone doing this. And how it seems to me is that it's sort of an inertia in the system that keeps us behind, because we keep desiring things out of habit and because we see other people around us do this regularly. So at my work in Teraloop, we are thinking about what is this similar, is equivalent to eating animal foods or traveling south for holidays. What is the equivalent of that in the energy system? So what is the type of inertia that keeps holding us back from transitioning to renewable power? And a very major one is that we are very dependent on a steady supply of electricity. And this is, in this case, very serious. So it's just not a nice thing to have, like animal-based food might be nice to eat, or it might be nice to fly for holiday somewhere far. But it's really that people's livelihoods and many people's lives are dependent on very steady electricity supply. So that is why I also brought this solar-powered battery, because this is kind of the image in small scale of how the renewable energy system would look like, that we imagine this kind of idyllic solar field or wind power field, and coupled with enough batteries that it can then power everything just like it used to. But in reality, if this is done in large scale, it's of course there are all the critical raw materials that go into producing batteries that are problematic, and also the batteries have a hard time really making the grid as stable as it used to be. Because it's not only that there is differences between if there is sun shining or not, or wind blowing or not, it's also because the nature of the energy source is less stable. It causes these also minor fluctuations in the frequency of the grid. And to balance these, you need energy storage that can very rapidly and frequently fluctuate between charge and discharge. And this, if you use batteries to do this, they age much faster because they are subject to chemical aging. So what is our solution at Teraloop for this is to use kinetic energy storage instead, and in like support for the batteries to help them work better and last longer. And we do it in a flywheel that works like this. So if you see when I spin this wheel, even after I have let go, it's continuing spinning. So you can see it is storing some energy. And of course, we can like optimize and grow the system to make it look like something like in the picture. So inside all of these cans, there's a kind of similar spinning wheel, just a lot bigger. And also what we have done is to get rid of the mass in the center. So the mass that is moving the slowest. So we've only made it the thin cylinder that only this fastest moving, most energy storing part is on the outside. And so in the smallest amount of material, we can store the maximum amount of energy. Also, we have got rid of this physical contact with the central axis. So we have made it levitate in a magnetic field, stabilized in a magnetic field. So the friction losses are gone. We have sucked the vacuum around it so that there's minimal air drag. And in those ways, like really optimize the efficiency of the system. And what is really special about it is that it's purely mechanical. So now you can charge and discharge it as many times as needed, and there is no chemical aging that the batteries suffer from. So our first applications, they will be in distributed energy systems like microgrids and virtual power plants. So to stabilize them, then what we can also move on to is to support sustainable mobility. So for example, at the electric vehicle charging stations, it also helps to save batteries there. And also in this wayside energy storage. So on the train station or metro station, you could briefly store braking energy and then use it for acceleration again. And all these applications, they help us to use less electrochemical batteries, so save these critical raw materials that go into producing them, and also extend the lifetime in the batteries that we have to use in any case. Yeah, so essentially, by using kinetic energy storage, we can sustainably make the transition to renewable energy, and at the same time, still keep the stability of the grid that we are so dependent on. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. And now introducing Carey, Head of Sustainability at Circulor.
Hi, good afternoon. It's nice to be with you all today. My name is Carey, and I'm the Global Head of Sustainability at Circulor. A massive transition is underway that we all know about, and that's about electrifying our transportation and power sectors. With the potential to reduce a sizable amount of our emissions globally, global battery demand will multiply by 19 times, and 200 gigafactories will spring up by the end of this decade. It looks good on the surface, but going deeper, we may be pushing our problems further upstream. The manufacturing and production of an electric vehicle is 70% more carbon intensive than an internal combustion engine vehicle. What's more is that electrifying transportation and power will require 10, 20, 30-fold the amount of critical materials that we use today, like cobalt, nickel, and lithium. The Congo supplies 70% of cobalt in the world, and recent reports reveal that for the miners, this means unlivable pay, discriminatory treatments, and a basic disregard for human health and safety. We can and should decarbonize our economies, and we can do it without exploiting our people and our planet. Our company, Circulor, provides the most in-depth, real-time tracing of complex industrial supply chains. We track critical minerals and materials like nickel, cobalt, lithium, tantalum, mica, and we follow the commodity through itself through the supply chain. The process begins at the mine site. We equip miners with digital mobile technology, also using facial recognition. And at this stage, we create a reliable digital twin of the commodity itself, using its weight, its mass balance, and its location. At this phase also, using the facial recognition and data-enabling technology, we can also incorporate accountability right from the start, ensuring that the miners are legally allowed to work and that they're properly compensated. With the digital twin created at the mine site, Circulor's embedded technology throughout the supply chain then tracks the physical flow of materials from source to manufacturer, collecting data throughout the chemical refining, cathode, and battery manufacturing processes. Using mass balance, elapsed time, proof of location, and scan points throughout the process, we connect input of ingredients with output of products at every phase of the process, continuously informing that digital twin, that virtual identity of the commodity while it changes shape and form. By the end of the process, with a vehicle identification number of an electric vehicle, we can know the exact cobalt in that vehicle. We can know where it came from, who mined it, and its journey to the vehicle. On top of real-time commodity and material tracking, we can assign direct, indirect, and attributable GHG emissions to that product through dynamic carbon accounting. Together, our customers can see the full extent of their supply chains, assess anomalies, and make decisions with full intelligence to ensure that they're both sourcing and producing sustainably and responsibly. Today, every facet of our global economy is demanding transformative change within our supply chains. Decarbonizing is no longer just Scope 1 and Scope 2. We must go to Scope 3. And visibility into our supply chains is no longer Tier 1 and Tier 2. We must go to Tier N. Forward-thinking businesses know that a strong ESG proposition lets them be engines for society, not just their shareholders, and it ensures their long-term growth and success. Here are a few of our clients and companies that we work with that I can share with you today. We're working with Volvo and Polestar to track cobalt, lithium, and mica, and attribute GHG emissions throughout production. With Polestar specifically, we're working together to track all the materials in the Polestar 3 to help them achieve their goal of a climate-neutral vehicle by 2030. With Trafigura, one of the largest physical commodity trading companies, we're providing traceability and CO2 tracking of their nickel and cobalt divisions. We're also working on the company's responsible sourcing and traceability program. Beyond batteries, we're also working with TotalEnergies on ocean plastics and Boeing's on the sidewalls of their 737 planes. In closing, we can build an electrified economy, and we can build them on firm foundations. A foundation that takes care of our people and our planet. We can have an ever-presence of our supply chain that gives us full visibility into what's happening, holds each other accountable, and raises the bar and the standard, and raises the bar in terms of what it means to have sustainable and responsible businesses. Thank you for your time.
And now for our last pitch, please welcome David Townsend, Founder and Chief Executive Officer of TownRock Energy.
Hi, I'm David Townsend. I'm the founder and CEO of TownRock Energy, which is an award-winning geothermal energy consultancy and technology company based in Edinburgh in Scotland. We've spent almost a decade developing technologies and projects in the broad space of geothermal energy and finding ways to bring them to market. And I'm very, very excited that we're in a decade now which has been labeled both the decade of renewable heating and cooling and the decade of geothermal energy recently in big platforms like this one. I love geothermal energy because it's using the earth to save the earth. Geothermal is very, very low carbon. In fact, if the small electrical loads required for running pumps comes from a renewable resource, then it's net zero. Geothermal is also baseload. It's baseload 24-hour renewable energy. And it can be ramped up and down as well to help balance a grid or balance a local heating and cooling demand. Geothermal can actually go anywhere. Anywhere on the planet, we can develop a type of geothermal energy system. It's extremely scalable. The type of geothermal system is going to vary according to the geology that's available in a given location, and the business model is going to vary depending on the energy market and the local customers, but it can genuinely be done in some form anywhere in the world. Geothermal energy is also invisible if you want it to be. It can be entirely underground, and it's also completely silent if you want it to be. And that can be really important for getting local communities to buy into this type of renewable energy project. But even more important for local community buy-in is that it's, by definition, a local resource. It will be creating local jobs for local energy supply, and there can often be an element of community ownership that will allow a community to galvanize around their own energy system, re-democratizing and decentralizing the energy system so that we can ensure that it's not just environmentally sustainable, but it's socio-economically sustainable as well. When it comes to heating and cooling, geothermal's efficiency is unbeatable. Compared to water source heat pumps or air source heat pumps, a ground source heat pump is always going to have a higher efficiency for heating. And finally, shallow geothermal is incredible for thermal energy storage, especially on a large scale and over multiple time scales. So you can do daily, weekly, monthly, and even, most importantly, seasonal thermal storage. So you're doing heating and cooling across a year and getting maximum efficiencies on both sides. So I was really inspired when I was out clubbing a couple of years ago. I got really, really hot. And I realized that the whole crowd was really hot, and this was a big source of waste heat. And we have waste heat all around us. This was one of them that I was more familiar with. And in meeting an owner of a nightclub in Glasgow called SWG3, we've developed a new heating and cooling and thermal storage technology called body heat. We're building it over the next few months in Glasgow. We launched the brand Body Heat Club as a new climate tech startup a few weeks ago at COP26 in Glasgow. We had Honey Dijon headlining. It was an incredible launch. And I've got a little video to show you that's been made sort of especially for this Politico live event. It'll give you a little more context about what it's about. I hope you really enjoy.
The Glasgow Arts venue has launched a new technology which will see heat generated from people on the dance floor recycled to power other parts of the venue.
In this world first, the heat from the dancers will be captured by sensors underneath the floor and turned into air conditioning and heating for the rest of the venues.
The arts is such a brilliant way to be able to highlight all of the diverse ways that all of us experience climate change.
This first system being installed in Glasgow, essentially we have a DJ who cranks up the tunes, and people in their resting state generate about 100, 150 watts. When they start dancing, they generate 500 to 600 watts of energy. And so this system provides cooling as a service. The heat is recycled and stored in boreholes, as shown in this animation. It's a very circular approach, which we're really excited kind of puts customers at the core of the energy transition or the energy revolution. So they can feel even better about doing what they love doing. So once the heat is stored in the boreholes, we can transfer it back into the building or to other buildings or into a heat network. And we have a minimum viable product that could work for a single room with a small cooling system that provides hot water from the crowd for them to go wash their hands when they're going to the toilet. This system is malleable, and the new startup, Body Heat Club, will be developing essentially a very broader range of technologies that use this same principle for capturing waste heat and using it as a useful source of renewable energy. And hopefully this is a really positive and fun way to come out of lockdown.
Body Heat integrates the latest low-carbon technology into buildings to heat and cool them, balanced with intelligent controls using machine learning. And in doing so, it puts customers at the heart of the net zero revolution. Whilst the pilot system is being installed in a nightclub, Body Heat can be used anywhere there's a crowd, venues, gyms, offices, and we are even exploring a mobile system for festivals. Installing and becoming certified for this pioneering technology is a way of showing customers, stakeholders, and others in your industry that you genuinely care about their future and their children's future and this fragile planet that we call home. Do you want to party to save the planet?
I really appreciate your time. However, just to add a little bit to what we heard earlier today, Google's doing some fantastic stuff using waste heat from data centers. We want to look at that, and we want to look at all of their data centers. I bet they're not using all the waste heat yet. So Google, really keen to speak to you. We're looking at gyms. You know, gyms not only have this massive amount of waste heat, but everyone is wasting all this energy on spin machines that's just getting generated as friction. Why not power the heating and cooling system with the energy that people are using to work out? It seems like a no-brainer, yet no one's really doing that yet. And so really, this is a very new company. We're really launching globally. The company will be ready to engage with potential customers early in the new year. We'll be then actually selling systems come sort of spring in 2022. And at the same point, we will be also raising investment. So if you fit any of those categories, anyone out there, by all means get in touch, and there'll be a website, landing page, contact information that you can get online by Christmas. But in the meantime, you had my contact details at the start. And thank you so much for the platform, Politico, and thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.